right, welcome back to Humanities Values. We've got another really fun, if the pre-conversation is anything to go by. A lot of great dialogue to be had here with Elliott. Elliott is also known as Secular Rarity, is a secular community builder. And we'll get into more of what that means here in a bit, who has worked with many different organizations over the years. He's the founder and current president of Secular Rising US, which frankly has some amazing swag as well, and is a nonprofit dedicated to connecting and supporting atheists, humanists, and secular minded people. He's also a founder of the Conversation Coalition, a monthly gathering where believers and non believers have challenging yet cordial conversations on topics most people avoid. Elliot,
Hey.
yeah, good times. Good to have you.
Thanks,
We,
man.
we've chatted a couple of times in the past. I know you were on RFRX, Recovering from Religions podcast there for a couple times and was a host and chatted. And recently we connected at NanoCon, correct?
Yeah, we got to
Yeah.
hang out for a little bit. Not as much as I would want. There was so many awesome people there, of course, and it was really great just to get that opportunity to be around your people. It's those kinds of moments. If somebody has never been to a conference or just some atheist, non-religious-y event like that, you really got to get out. You really got to find a way to be at one of those events in the future. And there are a bunch of them. That's the cool thing. People tell me all the time, like, oh man, there's nobody in my area. There's nothing going on. And you'd be surprised, you guys. You would be surprised. If you are near a major city in the United States, there's a group close by.
Mhm. Well, and that's partly what secular rising is about, correct?
Yeah,
It's that
exactly.
kind of making connections. I know most of what I see posting from you and your organization is around here's groups in your
Hmm.
area, here's things to do either in person, online, how to make those connections important, how to make them more alive, and recognizing that, hey, you're not alone.
Hmm.
You do not need to be siloed in behind your computer.
Right.
You too can connect with other people. How is that? When did you start that?
Yeah.
Vaguely
We
remember you talking about it a while back.
Yeah. Actually, it's still fairly new. We're still in the first year. We incorporated last year, actually, a day before the election, if you could believe it. It just so happened that was the coincidental date that we were able to sit down and finally push the paperwork through. And so, yeah, technically, our founding date is the day before the 2024 election. And I mean, we are a 501(c)(3), so obviously we're not political. We don't take any stances or anything like that. And all I'll say is, I think, more than ever, we have seen throughout this country a push against secularism, a push against non-religious people being welcome or being comfortable or being able to have their spaces. And so, in my opinion, I thought that was just it was such a great coincidence, because it's like, yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we're focused on. We're kind of, it's in the name. We're trying to have this secular rising throughout the US, literally. And what we realized, we're literally sitting in a hotel room near Cincinnati, at this Kentucky Free Thought conference, right? So we're up there, we're hanging out, bunch of us that are local in Nashville, that are really involved with a couple of different groups, and we're all just kind of chatting, and we're like, man, isn't it so weird that, like, none of us heard about that event 2 weeks ago?
And somebody was like,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We're so involved with all of these different, but like we didn't hear anything about this Humanist Association of Middle Tennessee gathering or the Sunday Assembly Nashville potluck, the Stoics meeting in Nashville that has been going on for 4 years now. All of these different groups, all of these different things are happening, and yet we're missing out on them, right? And we're active in this community. We're looking regularly. Hey, I get it. Somebody's never really gone out there, never really done a bunch of Google searches for like atheist groups in Nashville. Whatever, fine. Of course you're not going to find it, man. No problem. But like we're there. We're on the Capitol steps. We're bringing dinners to the potlucks, and yet we're missing out on these things. And so that's rattling around in our brain. And then somebody says something to the effect of like, well, so and so Alex, blah blah at that other meeting. And then somebody goes, Alex, which one is that? Is Alex the guy with the glasses and he's got the short hair? And then no, Alex is the guy, he's got the curly hair, and then he always wears like a bright t-shirt. Oh yeah, he comes to blah
Like
blah
that guy.
meeting. Why doesn't he come to this group too? So, well, he doesn't know about it, and then
Mhm.
we're seeing all these groups, all these different people, and there's no interplay. There's no connection whatsoever. And in large part, this isn't a criticism of any of these groups, right? Um, in large part, the reason that was the case is because to organize one of these groups, even something that sounds so simple, right? The Nashville Stoics group, awesome group. Just this guy just really started getting into Stoic philosophy, and he said, you know what, I think this could help some other people. And so he gathers some materials, just goes and gets some Stoic quotes or some resources and brings them to the group, sets them down on the table, and people just read them and talk about it together, right? Now, you out there probably going, man, that's nothing. It takes 5 minutes of his day, doesn't cost anything, whatever, right? But you're wrong, actually,
Quite. Yeah.
it
It is
it
not that
does
simple.
it does cost money. It does take hours and hours of time to craft that and to make that possible and to get that message out there to people. Even just certain advertisements online or certain platforms online. If you want to utilize them, you have to pay a monthly fee or whatever. And so like it takes a lot more work than people realize just to even have these types of groups, we're lucky to know the person that puts on the Nashville recovering from religion local meetup, and I can tell you, she has definitely had to put quite a lot of work in on the off time when she's not doing her job and living her life, right? The
Right.
vast majority of these groups are being put on by volunteers that are not getting paid, that are living their lives, that are having full-time jobs, that are taking care of families, that are all these other things, right? And so they don't have the time or the energy or the money to do both. You can't run Sunday Assembly Nashville and be on the board for that or be one of the musicians and also be actively promoting and attempting to reach out to other groups or other people in the area. You just don't, you just don't have that time. And we've got all of this, okay? We've got all of these thoughts in our head. And we had also just recently been watching this documentary called Bad Faith, which is a super, super great documentary. If anybody, if
Mhm.
anybody hasn't seen it, my suggestion, okay, is to load up before you start this movie, wherever you are, okay? Load up with all of your feel good things, okay? Get all of
Yes.
your stress balls or your wine or whatever it is that helps you decompress and not like blow up, because I guarantee you the majority of the people that are going to be listening to this, if you go watch it, halfway through it you'll be so furious, because this documentary does a phenomenal job of going step by step through the various 501c3s, 501c4s, all these different political, local, religious, PACs, all of these different groups that are in this like deeply incestuous, mirroring, supporting kind of relationship on the Christian nationalist side. And this is why those groups and those ideologies over the last, few decades have been able to develop such strength and such staying power right now. So back
He did the
in
work.
right, right. It truly is one of those things where, it's like there's definitely a frustration and there's definitely a little bit of depression on this side. Okay, guys, I'm going to be a little pessimistic. We're going to walk this journey together through valley of suffering and depression, but I'm going to bring you out. Don't worry. But the frustrating and the sad part is that, yeah, like what's happening right now was a 25-30 year plan. Right? They started back in the late 80s, mid 90s, right? These groups had this idea and they said, look, here's what we have. We have all the churches already. They've got the people. The people are right there. You know what? We've got these policy groups over here, right? Okay. And then we've got this printing company over here, right? And this merchandising company, right? And then we've got this event planning and organizing company. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to just connect them all. And so now when the group makes a pamphlet, it goes out to all the people. And when the group has the event, all the people are there, right? And whenever there's an idea, whenever there's a thought, whenever there's anything whatsoever that needs to be spread, there is this waiting, ready to go network to mobilize hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And at the same time, every single time they're paying $5, it doesn't matter where it goes because it all stays in the network and it all builds the community, right? This is what they have been doing for years and years and years. And that's where the success comes from. And that sucks because when you hear that and you see that for the first time, you're like, oh my gosh, this is huge. This is like ingrained into so many aspects of our society now. And oh my God, we're screwed, is the feeling. And I get you. And we could just stop it. We could stop it right there and everybody would just be depressed and they'd be like, what are we even doing? Why'd you bring this guy on, David? But
that would not be the message that I would want to leave.
Of course not. Of course not. No. I'm here to pick everybody back up, which is very, very simply, right? Super, super easy, super straightforward, nothing crazy about it. Guess what, guys? We can do the same damn thing. Plain and simple. We can start now, and we have to start now because 5 years' time, we will be exponentially behind if we don't. If we don't start making those deep connections, those ready to go networks between our communities, we will be so screwed in the coming years because it is only going to amplify. These places have gotten so good with the algorithms, right? We were talking about AI and pumping out content and stuff, and those companies, those institutions, those organizations, those individuals have gotten so good at all of that stuff. And again, it is only going to continue growing. One of the biggest reasons these institutions are so successful is because they started a plan 30 fucking years ago and they stuck with it, man. And compound interest is two of the sexiest words in the English language, y'all. And I'm telling
That
you,
is true.
if we start today, yes, tomorrow we're going to feel like nothing happened. A year from now, we're going to be like, oh man, we got 5 people, like it's going to feel like it's going nowhere. But in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time, 50 years' time, we're going to look back and we're going to go, holy crap. Look how far we have come. Think about the American Humanist Association. Think how long they've actually existed as an organization. The ACLU. The ACLU has been around for over 100 years. How do I know that for a fact? Because they were the reason that the Scopes Monkey trial even happened.
Right.
Over 100 years, this organization has been around, right?
Well, yes.
Now, think about this. How long has recovering from religion been around?
Right.
Not 100 years. But look at what they've been able to do. Look at what they've been able to do in this short time frame, right? Think about all of these other organizations that are out there, right? That are on our side. There are so many opportunities and places, right, for us to grow as a community, for us to get more connected and to build that wealth within our communities the same way the other side is doing. So we've got all these thoughts in our head. We see this framework that's already out there, and we just got so freaking excited, and we said, we have to do this. We have to do this. And so we sat down. We started. We had we had a list of maybe like 150 different names. There was something about like muddy truth skeptic community or something, because we were like, what could we do here? We at one point threw some
Figure out some
names.
kind of cool acronym or something
Right,
like that. Like something
there
has to make sense.
was something, right? But eventually we came to the idea of Secular Rising US because has a little bit of a pun in there, right? So it's like rising as in like lifting, right? But then also like secularizing, US. So with that, since we started, the entire focus has been providing opportunities for our people to find their people. We like to say that we help secular people find their people, and we have been working with a bunch of different groups. There's over half a dozen groups in the Middle Tennessee area alone that are in this space, right? Whether it's the Benevolent Friends group, whether it's the Sunday Assembly Nashville, Recovering from Religion, Americans United, a humanist association, and there's so many more, because one of the big things that has been a problem, I think, in terms of how we view this term secular is, and it, I'm not saying it's entirely from the religious side, but largely, but a lot of times when people think of secular, they think of really specific things. They think of like things that are pushing back against religion. They think of, things that specifically talk about, maybe science-y stuff, I mean, but in reality, the vast majority of the things that we engage in on a regular basis are secular. And that is so important for us to get people to understand. Look, when you go to the grocery store, you guys, that's secular. If you're at a baseball game with your kid, that's secular. If you're hanging out at a concert or walking through the woods with your girlfriend or whatever it is, man. There are so many things out there that truly, at the end of the day, they're secular. And we need to start getting more people to rally around that and celebrate that. The bowling league that you go to, the stamp collection group that your buddy started a year ago, those are all activities that we can celebrate together and say things like, hey, you know what? Isn't it cool that we have this opportunity to do this thing where we don't have to be constrained and forced into a religious mindset, or we don't have to worry that because one of our bowling league buddies is a Hindu and the other one is Jewish and this guy's agnostic. We don't have to worry about anybody fighting each other or being shitty to each other or anything. Tim wants to pray? No problem. He pulls his mat out, he faces Mecca, he prays real quick. Everybody's fine. He doesn't shove it down anybody's throat. Nobody yells at him. Everything's cool. That's secular. That's awesome. That's beautiful. And that's something that we should celebrate more. We should grow. We should have more things like that where we focus on that. Now, the other aspect, go ahead, please. Yeah, it looks like you got a question.
One thing on that, it's interesting because this is a similar issue with, atheism in general, where it's the philosophically proper definition is just the absence of, and which doesn't really tell us anything. That's why
Right.
there's been various iterations over the last particularly 20 years or so of trying to add something to it.
Exactly.
And you had various attempts at doing so, and some were silly, some were good natured and whatnot.
Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, people don't sign up for what you're not. They sign up for what you're for. And it's one of those things around, like, whenever I hear, and we're not going to get into a whole bunch of politics because given what you already stated, but it is that, like, the criticism that often happens around people in the far right in particular is that they're all against this, they're against this, they're against that. That's your interpretation of it. That's what, and it makes sense to see it that way because often you're standing for the things that ostensibly they're fighting against. That being said, the inverse is also true. Like, they're standing up for, in their minds, just like literally everybody, for the things that matter. They're standing up for freedom. They're standing up for family. They're standing up
Right.
for, the rights that they believe, are paramount and should be a priority. And when it comes to secularism, similar thing, where, like you stated, often people have this idea of going like, well, you're just anti, what,
Right. Right.
and when you start talking about things like bowling leagues and getting together, and it's like, okay, well, what are we standing for? And there's that, I think in some ways, perhaps there's that rising piece. What
Yes.
are we rising up for?
Yes.
And that is the celebration of the fact that different opinions on different subjects can band together over commonalities as simple as throwing a ball down a lane or whatever it may be, and recognize that we don't have to be pigeonholed
Yes.
and limited
Right.
to just one thing. That secularism actually allows us to be all that we
Yes.
can be, to steal a theme
Yes.
from a
And
armed forces, but
and and
like that it is.
grow too, and
Right.
grow, and that's exactly the other side of it. One of the biggest things that we wanted in this, moving forward with this idea, and especially incorporating it as an organization, we
Right.
wanted, again, that lifting, that positive support, that pushing forward, moving towards something greater, all of that concept. And exactly what you said about, there has been for a long time with the word atheist, there's been a reclaiming of that word. There's been an attempt to shift what the average person thinks about it, and I'm all for all of that. And I am an atheist, right? And super, super happy to be part of the atheist community in a large way. There's obviously shitty people. We know that, guys. But the point
It's
is, like,
humans.
that's right. That's right. Everywhere you go, but we wanted just a little bit of a different focus. And that focus that we wanted was in part to try to get people to have that positive, uplifting kind of mindset. So what I want, right? So we all know about the, angry atheist, right? There's a lot of people that when they think of atheist, that's what they'll think of, right? What do people think of when they think of secular? And I don't know that there's a super solidified societal definition right now. I don't know that if you walked out there and you started just polling people, average people around the United States, I don't know that they would give you a super like intensely emotional attached kind of, like I don't think it has that super polarizing effect right now. I remember now it does in some circles, right? There are definitely some new independent fundamentalist Baptists out there that they really have their feelings on what it means to be secular. But I think broadly speaking, most people just it's one of those words that people use and they hear, but they don't exactly really know what it is. Like, for instance, I found this out not long ago, which is the word finagle. Like, I always use that term. Like, I always
Right.
use right? Okay. So here's
To
the
kind of
thing.
like figure out to
Oh,
jiggle almost like
so
yeah.
so that's what I thought too, right? I thought it was just like, oh, like this isn't fitting perfectly. Let me just finagle this real quick. It's,
Right.
it's actually like deceitful. It's like finagling is like screwing somebody over, in the background to make the situation, what you want and get what you, it's like, I didn't realize it had that negative context, like technically I was telling all these people all the time that I was like a duplicitous asshole or something. Yeah, man, I'm just going to go screw you over behind the scenes real quick.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh my God. But
Yeah.
with,
Like I'm gonna finagle my way through this. Like,
exactly.
wait,
That's what I
I'm,
always said.
playing Machiavelli. Yeah.
Right. That's what I always said. That's how I always used it. Um, and I think secular again holds this kind of space for a lot of people where they don't really have this deep understanding of what it means. And I think that's great. That's a
Mhm.
great opportunity because what we do is we tell people what we're for, right? And what I want is I want people to get into this place where they'll go, "Oh, this is about diversity. That's secular. Oh, this is about compassion. That's secular. Well, this is about supporting people and building a better world together. That's secular. Oh, this isn't about pushing past our differences and not looking at them. This is about facing them forward, eyes wide open, and cordially discussing them with the intention of learning from each other. That's secular. That's what I think we have an opportunity to do. We have this chance to completely reframe the way people think about this and give it that positive spin, right? Because I think, again, there will be a lot of people, listening to this that are familiar with this concept. How many times and places and circles does somebody mention somebody's religious and then you just assume all of these positive traits to them? They go,
Right.
oh, well, he's religious. He gives to charity. He's religious. He's a
Mhm.
good person. She's religious. She takes care of, her family and is super kind to people. They're religious. They're successful. They're religious. It's always these types of things. Now, look, I'm not saying we should start actively putting a lot of the bad things on, like they're religious. Oh, they're genocidal. They're religious. They're like, for, doing bad things to kids.
'Cause that
I'm
would
not
be
saying,
equally untrue, just
yeah,
like the
right,
other
right, right.
side as
Exactly.
well. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. We don't
The
need to,
automatic associations that get us into trouble.
exactly. And especially those super, super negative ones like that. Right. And so we don't need to do that. We can have a movement, we can have an ideology, we can have organizations and communities that focus on building each other and being positive with each other. And let me throw another little flavor to this, which is I actually think that's going to be the thing that makes the biggest difference going forward. For all of the people out there that are in this mindset of like, and it's growing, already on its own. But there are all of these people in this mindset of how do we get religious people out of those harmful ideologies, right? How do we help people transition from a space where these toxic views and behaviors are completely controlling their lives, right? I think one of the best things you can do for that is to demonstrate the positive community that exists outside of that, right? So, of course, I love the debates. I think they're important. I think more scientific study, I think more education, I think all of these things have great value. One thing I've noticed, though, over the years, especially over the last handful, I've noticed a lot of different religious communities stepping away from that stuff. Hey, look, maybe, maybe there was a global flood. Maybe, right? I mean, fossils are real. Just want to say fossils are real. Okay.
Right.
Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. It's the message. Come to the potluck this weekend. We're doing an Easter egg hunt the day after. What they're focusing on so much more and more going forward is the community building, is the focus on the support of each other and giving people other opportunities to have those touch points with that space, right? The God up in heaven and the Jesus crackers and the handling of snakes, definitely, and speaking in tongues and all that stuff's diminishing. And what's becoming more and more important is the Bible studies, not so much because of the studying of the Bible, but because you're getting together regularly, and the women's and men's groups and the daycares and the community parties and the service projects and the mission trips and the hangouts, and that is where people are putting their focus. And I think one of the big reasons they're doing that is because they know that that's where the rubber meets the road for so many people. They know that that's the place where it's really, really going to make a difference. And getting out there and threatening people about eternal torture doesn't work long term. It'll work for a little while. Like, fear is a good motivator in a short term sense, and without like giving a shit about long term consequences, or ethics.
Fear has to connect to something that matters,
right?
And eternality is kind of like, well, higher order math. Even the people who are good at it don't really get it.
Right.
Our brains aren't set up for that. And so it has to, and you're spot on there as far as the coming down to that community model. Coming down, and down doesn't mean lesser. It just means baseline of who we are as. I mean, and the irony here is that here you have a bunch of groups who, at least historically, by and large, have a bit of an issue with certain elements of science and evolutionary theory, while at the same time, they're using the principles of us being apes better than many of us who have a history of, what was the I fucking love science group on Facebook. It's like, here people are like, yeah, we're all this. And then we don't bother to sit down and go, well, yeah, but what does that mean in practice? And how should we then utilize these points of understanding of how we organize our lives, how we think about our experiences, and use that to help create and facilitate better connections. Meanwhile, the groups that are ostensibly against it are actually using all that stuff a whole lot better.
Right.
The irony just is
that's
amazing.
That's what
It's
cracks me up whenever I hear people talking about, whenever I hear people giving shit to the soft sciences, and they're
right.
like, oh, there's so much in like psychology and sociology that doesn't have any bearing and blah, blah. And it's like, what do you mean? You can literally see it in practice every Sunday in Nashville, Tennessee at 4,000
Mhm.
fucking churches. You can see you can feel the emotion shift in the room when the minor chords start getting played. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fucking hilarious. It is
Yep.
incredibly, it is so clear on so many places how these various aspects that have been just well established in places like biology or sociology or psychology for years, right? We know how these things work, and yet, right, we're not putting them into practice. Now, I know there's probably at least some keen-eared viewer out there, and I appreciate you. Before you start typing that comment, let me go ahead and help you out here. Yes, I know a lot of those places are doing those things in a manipulative way. And no, I am not saying let's be underhanded and manipulate this and that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that while we point those tactics out to the other side, right? While we let people know that those things are happening in an underhanded way and push back against all the arguments and all that good stuff, we can also use these things in a positive capacity, right? You can let people know up front, hey guys, we're going to play some music that might make you feel some shit. That's the point, right? And they do that at various groups. There are various non-religious groups around Nashville, for instance, that will specifically say, they'll be like, hey guys, so for anybody that's new here, we just have this quick little sentence that we all say together, right? You sure don't have to say it if you don't want to, but what this does is it provides us an opportunity to just be with each other, and it gives us that sense of community. There's something about those little fucking rituals like that. Everybody just holds a fucking candle that's lit for 2 minutes, and suddenly you feel more connected with this guy next to you. Never said a
Yep.
word to him in your life, but suddenly you feel connected. Like, that's good. That's a good
Yep.
thing that works for people, and we can utilize that stuff. It's so frustrating when I hear, somebody will say like, well, this group was just too churchy for me. And I say, oh yeah, no, hey, I get that, man. What were they doing? Were they like talking about like supernatural elements or forcing you to like believe tenets or whatever? And they're like, nah, they just did some singing and we ate food. And I was like, why are we seeding that ground? Why would we allow them to claim that that is an exclusively religious thing? That is core to us as people. Imagine if somebody said this to you. Imagine if somebody came came up to you one day, buddy of yours, and they said, man, so I went to this thing last night, and you said, yeah, a little event. You went out, you had a good time. You and your partner going out on the town, man. Why didn't you like it? What was wrong? And they said, yeah, it was just a bit too churchy. And you go, oh, too churchy. Wasn't it a stand-up comedy show? Yeah, it's just too churchy, man. Just
Yeah.
reminded me
It
too
was a
much of
gathering of people
there's
having
a
a good time,
pastor
therefore
up there telling stories. That just made me, you'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Like,
Mhm.
why would you do that? So the same thing is true for all of these other things. There is no reason in the world that a group of people gathering together to sing songs, right? Or say nice things to each other, or have some food, or go help out in your local community doing service project. There's no reason in the world that has to in any way, shape, or form be connected to supernatural, religion, divinity. None of that. It's just us as people, man. And we need to start actively attempting to push that narrative, because that, I think, is going to be, again, one of the biggest things that moves people in the next handful of years. I see a lot of the um, intense apologetics. I see a lot of the arguments about science in the Bible and philosophy, this and that. I see a lot of those really falling away in the next handful of years, because I don't think there's as much money in it for them as there used to be. And I think what they're seeing is, if I can get you to bring your kids to the daycare, you know, if I can provide you, young man, with a space where other young men get together and we go bowling or we go hunting or we go hiking or we whatever, if I can get you into those places, then I can get you to put money in my pocket, you know? And I see our side deeply loving the fights. I do. And I love it too. Don't get me wrong, But when I was having this conversation with a good buddy of mine just the other day, actually, but oftentimes what I see at the end of those, I don't see our community I don't see our community coalescing. I don't see our community showing up to support in tangible ways that the other side does. Right. So the Ken Ham Bill Nye debate raised like $150 million for Ken Ham. Like that. Like next week.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Science people got money.
Mm-hmm.
These got money. Religious people got money. What the fuck did we do? What did we do? What happened? Where'd we go? Was that it? Did we just showed up and we were like, all right, done and done. No, put that one to bed. Like, come on, guys.
It is similar in a kind of magical thinking of, if you just build it, they'll come. If truth, which of course, if in this gets into the you see it all the time, particularly with memes, and I love a good meme as much as the next person, but the fact that anybody thinks these are actually, legitimate arguments just annoys me. And it's just like evident, it's like, well, we have the evidence, it's like facts, when not, or, ideas when not supported by evidence are just opinions. You know what also is not supported at times by evidence? Facts.
Yeah.
That otherwise end up getting proven wrong later. I mean, it's this whole notion that we being whatever group that you happen to identify with at a given time has the market cornered on what is right, true, and forever accurate is, I don't know, sounds rather familiar to and obviously I'm not a postmodernist. I'm not saying that truth doesn't matter and so on, but there is a point at which the sense in which, like, well, we just keep saying the right thing and therefore we don't have to worry about messaging, and here it is again, the fact that we're apes. We don't have to worry about that. We're these higher order intelligences that will just gravitate towards, and it's not true. Speaking of facts, but it's not true. We need those rituals. We need that sense of community, not least because the lone wolf in the wilderness dies. And the only person they're proud of is themselves. And you can go ahead and howl all you want about, I've got what matters. You know who cares? Literally nobody.
Yeah. And the impact that you have affects nothing,
Right. I would much rather have solid conversations to be able to work with people who otherwise I may not necessarily agree with on every last little thing, which frankly would be true, at least when it comes to me, with just about everybody.
Right.
I don't agree with everybody about literally anything. I don't even agree with myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
why would you want that, man? Why would you want
that? It's more. Yeah, exactly. So instead it's going, but what do we want commonly? What do we want to create and that's where the secular, I would imagine, comes up.
Absolutely.
Is we're facilitating the space for mutual growth and individual expression. So we come to it's the Daniel Siegel out of psychology, has that the me that is we.
Mhm.
Without the me doesn't really matter. We're just an ego flailing at the universe, going, "Why don't you pay attention to me?" Like a strip out of Calvin and Hobbes, which is one of my favorite. It's like, "Oh, pay attention to me," says the spec to the universe. And
Right.
it's just like, come on, like let's figure out what is more important, being right, or rather, really, when it comes down to it, feeling like you're right, or figuring out how to work together to go, how are we connecting? Let's do the work
Yes,
of creating something.
and that is definitely a really really interesting space because so for instance the other one of the other things that I do is the Conversation Coalition,
Right.
and that is just a group of religious and non-religious people who purposefully have the difficult conversations, right? We want to be challenged and to challenge others. We want to have pushback on our ideas. We want somebody to hear something we said and go, I don't agree with that. And let me tell you why. And the entire purpose of that is to demonstrate how it is possible to sit across from somebody that 100% before even going into it, they disagree with you. But notice how I said they disagree with you. I didn't say they hate you. I didn't say they want to destroy you. I didn't say that they think you're unworthy of human rights or legal protections or love or friendship. They disagree with you about something, right? They don't disagree with you about everything. That seems really as unlikely as it is that there is somebody out there that you agree with 100% on. I
Right.
also very much doubt there's somebody you disagree with 100% on, you know? And moving into those spaces, a good buddy of mine, Gary, he always says that. He always says, I want to move into that. I want to move into that space. I want to get right in there. And that can be one of the most powerful things you can ever do is to have somebody look you in the eyes and say, I hear where you're coming from. I think there's problems with it. And these are my issues. And for you to go, yeah, bring it on. A lot of times we'll even subconsciously, whenever that happens, right? You can see it with your friends out in public. You'll see us kind of like, or kind of put away, or oh yeah, there's this little bit of like a protection thing we're kind of doing
Mhm.
almost, right? But to truly just have somebody go like, you know what, man, that's incorrect, and you to just be like, hit me, like tell me what's up. Let's have this out. And one of the things we realized about this right from the beginning, okay? So again, our whole point, right? We're not really out there to prove one thing or the other. We're not really out there to, um, you know, slap somebody down or anything, right? I love a good hitch slap, but um, we're there to demonstrate to people that with your coworkers, with your neighbors, with your friends, with your families, these conversations are not only possible, but they're incredibly valuable. And within the first couple of events, what we saw, because we normally do about an hour of dialogue and then about 30 minutes of Q&A. And a lot of our events are, one or two people on one side, one or two people on the other side of the topic, moderator, largely conversational. We try to keep it, mostly just, flowing and stuff. Um, but but we have an hour and a half of an event, but people stayed for an hour afterwards. And they wouldn't leave. And the first time that, like, the first or second event, and that happens, and a couple of us pulled each other aside. We said, "Hey, you see this?
What
That's
happened?
Steven. I know Steven's an atheist." And the other guy goes, "Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and that's Marcus is a pastor. He's a deacon over at blah blah church. They're really engaged right now. They're really enjoying this." And every single time since then, we have always had to. I mean, we're getting kicked out of every place we're in, whether it's the coffee shop, whether it's, the brewery and the restaurant, whether it's the churches that we do them in. We currently do these events in a church that live streams the conversation on their church's
Oh,
website. They talk about it in their Sunday worship service. We're all in the room and we're all talking and they're turning the lights. We go, "All right, guys, everybody got to go. We got to get out of here. They want to go home." So we move to the front of the building and we're standing in the lobby for another 30 minutes. "All right, everybody, they're turning the lights on. We got to go." So we're standing in the parking lot for another 30 minutes. So after good handful of these, we've been doing it just over about 2 years now. And the next thing we realized, we're getting ready for an event. We've opened up the doors. People are milling in. We got some free snacks over here, people grabbing a drink or whatever. This one guy walks in, buddy of ours on the atheist side, walks in, walks right up to this other guy, looks him dead in the face, and he goes, "Hey, man, I thought we were getting together for coffee the other day. I never heard back from you." And the other guy, who is like super, super, super Christian,
right.
goes, "Yeah, man, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I had this thing happen. Hey, let's just put it right now. What are you doing? Like, yeah, Tuesday. Yeah, perfect, man. Yeah, 3:00. No, that'd be great, man. Yeah, I live right down the road from blah, blah."
I love that.
Every single time now, we do one of these events. Either some of these people are planning to meet up outside, right? Or they're talking about having met up outside with people of opposing worldviews. And that's it right there. That's it. I mean, 100%. That is exactly what we wanted. And it is so awesome to see that people are coming to this and getting so excited, right? That they're starting to have conversations with just strangers, by the way. These guys never knew each other. They never knew each other until these events. And they talked at a
Mhm.
few of them. They said, "Man, we got to get together outside of this," right? And we just had one last Thursday. And the one before that, okay? The one before that, we had 2 atheists, okay? 2 science lovers, reason, philosophy. And on the other side, okay? And the reason I'm setting it up like this is because I'm about to bring that hammer down for the end. On the other side, guys, if you can believe it, okay? 2 young earth creationists,
Ha, nice.
Southern Baptist preachers, okay? Fire and brimstone. Your evolution is BS, okay? Right? Now, I know already everybody out there is already like, "Man, I see who these guys are. I see who these guys are. I know exactly where they're coming. I know exactly their behavior. Oh, yeah, man, right?" If you can believe it, 2 minutes into starting the event, they're all introducing themselves. And the young earth creationist says, "It was so great to have a conversation with the atheist. Grab some coffee just a couple days ago. I found out we actually align on so much more than I
Mhm.
ever realized."
Yep.
And everybody in the audience is just kind of stunned for a second because they're like,
Where's the rumble?
"Yeah,
Where's the fight? Mhm.
how could, how?" And it's like, well, because as we started talking about things, we both had these preconceived notions. See, the young earth creationist, right? See, obviously, He's going to be for stripping people of their rights. He's going to be for installing Christian nationalism, right? Not for abortion, doesn't want your education, doesn't like people of color. I mean, clearly that's what he's going to be, right? And obviously this atheist, he's going to be, open up the borders, he's going to say, I don't care about, gender, whatever, to smash the patriarch. I mean, he anti-capital. I mean, whatever, right? You come to find out that neither of them really had those views on either side. You come to find out that, yeah, they disagree on some stuff. Of course, they knew that going into it, right? That was the whole point of them meeting up. But as they continued to talk, the atheist says something like, "Well, man, I just think people should have access to healthcare, and your religion shouldn't be telling people not to." And then the Christian goes, "Well, yeah, I don't think that's right. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I agree.
I also want that." And he's like, "Oh, okay, wow, huh, really?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, let me tell you about this thing that happened with my mom. Let me tell you about this ectopic pregnancy that happened, with my wife or whatever. Let me tell you about this or that, or it it's fascinating how much we really, really don't know about people, even people that we engage with on a regular, consistent basis. We bring so many assumptions to it, and it's understandable. Again, like we've been saying this whole time, man, we're apes, man. And I think Hitchens used to talk about how we have this center of our brain that's too much about anger and emotions and sex and food, and the logic center is so tiny, and we just do a shit job a lot of times of being social in the way that is truly beneficial for us, because that's what we are. We are social creatures. We need each other, and we thrive in that capacity. And the more that we put ourselves in those situations, and the more that we find those commonalities between people of diverse backgrounds and diverse groups and diverse ideologies, and yes, you guys, that includes the young earth creationists. That includes all of these different groups that many of us will turn our noses up to and will push aside and will not want to. Let me just remind you of something so crucial. Doesn't matter what they believe, they haven't lost their humanity. We have to remember that, and we have to treat people like that. And when we do that, I really, really think that's where we'll see the progress. I really think going forward, that's going to be the thing that makes us stand out, makes our communities more strong and vibrant, and allows them to continue growing. There's only so long that you can have a community that is built on denigrating or humiliating or putting down or depressing. And there's only so long that you can do that, right? And we see that, we see that in a lot of those spaces, a lot of those super hardcore fundamentalist,
It's
ideologies.
self-destructive.
Exact, and it eats itself, man. The freaking the Mennonites, for years and stuff, the Shakers and these literally told their congregation, don't even have children. I mean, come on, man. It's like that's the number one thing you gotta do is you gotta have more people to replace the old ones when they go. It's come on. But this is why I think that idea of positive, uplifting, support, connection, those types of things are going to be what really, really makes a difference moving forward in all of these different spaces. And what I really, really hope people will start to realize and start to get on board with is a lot of us will talk about diversity. Again, a lot of us will talk about how we love diversity. And I just want to remind you how diversity can be incredibly valuable in other spaces too. A diversity of communities and a diversity of ideas and a diversity of focuses and methods are incredibly important. Let me tell you something, folks. I wish that everybody loved my favorite projects too. I wish that everybody's number one favorite issue was my number one favorite issue. And I wish everybody gave $1 million to all the things that I give money to. And I wish everybody was there on the front lines doing everything that I absolutely, right? And that's kind of part of what all our jobs are, right? If we have something that we like, the whole point is you try to get other people to get on board, right? But
Right.
if you're let's say you're in a small town in Tennessee right now, 2025. Let's say you're a trans kid who also just so happens to be atheist, or let's say you're black and you're in a community where you don't have a lot of support. Let's say you're a young woman who is looking for healthcare for various reasons, right? Economically disadvantaged. Let's think about that for a second. Now, those are the people that are going to be going to the Second Harvest Food Bank. Those are the people that are going to be receiving healthcare from various organizations that provide free clinics, right? If you want to support the atheists in your area, right? If you want to support LGBTQ individuals, if you want to support minority communities of all shapes, colors, stripes, and everything, there are 1,000 ways you can do that. And a lot of those ways do not get the attention. Look, support the Trevor Project. That's a great organization, right? Abso-freaking-lutely. You know what other organization really helps LGBTQ youth? Recovering from religion, right? Second Harvest Food Bank, right? Your various unhoused homeless shelters, right? These types of institutions, these communities, these focuses, these methods, they are on our side. And we have to start realizing that. And we have to start allowing people to work in those other capacities. I've seen it so much where somebody stands up and they say, we are not paying enough attention to, the elderly Puerto Ricans. And I say, you're totally right. Look, you're totally right. We're not. Okay. And we need to do more, right? Absolutely. In fairness, I'm a little busy with some other things over here, so and they go, fuck you. You don't care. You just want to let all the bad, you're the reason that this, it's like, whoa. Hang on. Once again, think about the connections. Think about that intersectionality for just a second, right? It's so incredibly important. And again, we're the ones that love the data and the science and stuff, y'all. Let's use it. We're the ones that talk about how important this stuff is. Let's actually start using it. And when you look at that information, again, it plays out like that time and time again. If you're in Mississippi right now, who do you think are the ones that are receiving these various resources from these different organizations that are scraping by with their $5? Who do you think are the people that are on the front lines? It's those. You can help out the atheist community, the queer community, various Black community, Hispanic community. You pick a cause that matters to you. And I promise you, there is a dozen different organizations. There is a dozen different ways that you can help. And we all think about it. We always think about, oh man, I just don't have the time. I just don't have, I don't have I don't have the money. I don't have the skills. What could I do? First off, just want to validate that for a second and just be like, yeah, man, look,
We all have limits. Yep.
absolutely. And know that limit for yourself and advocate for yourself and hold that line strong. Absolutely, man. Trust me, there are a lot of times where I just have to straight up, nah, man, love y'all. Not gonna do it. Just can't. Not gonna be there next
Yep.
Thursday. But
Opportunity costs are a real thing.
that's
Yes.
absolutely right. But for everybody out there that feels that just a little bit and kind of knows it's a bit more of an excuse, right? You do have time. You do have the skills. You do have the resources, right? There are a lot of, and the reason I say that is because there's so many things that are needed right now. So for instance, one of the things that is super, 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 super needed across the entire fucking non-religious charity community space, okay? CPAs. Who the hell out there is doing the math and filling in the spreadsheets, y'all? Because wherever you are, please contact all of us today. Like, call everybody, every organization that if you know anything whatsoever about QuickBooks, baby, like, you are potentially one of the most valuable people right now. If you happen to have graphic design experience, if you write articles, if you are a talented and dedicated researcher, I mean, if you can just stand in a fucking room and hand out pamphlets for an hour, like, guys, there's so much. Honestly, there's so many different opportunities to get involved with a lot of different communities that can really, really help in a lot of different ways. And again, think back to what I was talking about earlier on the other side with that incestuous community where, all these different organizations are, focusing on each other and putting the money back in. That's what we have to do. And we can do that. There are so many places out there right now. And I get it. Sometimes people will say, well, I have a problem with blah, blah. They did this thing and whatever. Totally understand. Nobody's going to be perfect. No place is going to be perfect. But you know what? Two things. Okay. One, you can join these communities and change them, right? If you think there's something going on that is so egregious, and I'm not saying there hasn't been, okay? There definitely has been, okay? But if you think these things are so terrible, join. Get everybody else you know to get involved and to make the change, right? Be that change you want to see, right? And then two, start your own place. Do it. Start it today. Get involved. You want to do something different? They're not doing it the way that you think is the best. You know what? Let's put it to the test. Again, we're science lovers over here, y'all. Let's run some fucking experiments then. Why not? Okay? Let's have so many channels and podcasts and communities and service projects and opportunities for our people that there is so much out there you can't possibly be a part of it all. Let's do that because that's what they have on the other side. That's why they've been successful in the places that they've been successful, And again, if we don't start today, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, we will be so far behind. We may not be able to catch up, I think. So I know that this is a time where a lot of people are really stressed and sad and they're like, man, fuck, man, I don't know what to do. The whole world is crumbling. This all looks terrible. And I get that. And again, if you're in that space, if you've used up all your spoons, if this isn't your fight right now, that's okay. For the rest of us, we'll hold down this space till you get back, and we'll be right here trying to grow it as much as possible to the point, hopefully, right, one day we don't even need it anymore because the whole fucking world just follows this system, right? This inclusive, diverse, compassionate, reason, science loving, secular fucking world, man. That is a beautiful vision, in my opinion, you know? Now, again, I will just say, it'll take a little bit of work to get there.
We come back to the we are apes. Yes. Well,
That's right. That's right.
well, and it's why, I have these conversations and why, I name this humanities values. It's not a single group's values. It's not, some identity's values. It is humanity. It is the thing that we share, of which we are all in the same boat. We're just going at different paces, using different oars, figuring out different directions. I'm gonna start really burying that metaphor here in a moment. But, I mean, it's just like, we're trying to we're here attempting to make sense out of in the feedback loop that we get into. It's the one thing that I will push back, and I do this with clients quite often of with the anxiety and getting overloaded, is
Mm-hmm.
going, if you cease acting, if you pull back, as much as again, caveat, I get we all have limits and we
Yep.
need to be
Yep.
aware of that. That being said, we'll also note that quite often the limits that we think we have are not actually the limits that we actually have. Our brains are fundamentally bias creating lazy creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Our brain, we want to see things the way that we predict is going to happen because we have that then sense in which, well, the world makes sense. It is going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, but that's just it. If we don't go out and do things, if we don't participate, I mean, this is broadly what is largely happening with even broadly democracy. People scream about,
Yeah.
democracy and democracy that. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, when was the last time you voted? Even if, or in fact, because your vote, quote unquote, doesn't matter. No, it's the participation, your single voice, whatever that may not be the voice that goes viral, but it is still a voice
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that will be heard
Mm-hmm.
by the person next to you and the person there, and the ripple effects are things that will never happen. You may never know. And yet, you like those stories you shared, you may find out later on that, Rick and Bob and whoever are having coffee,
Right.
down the road
Right.
because of something you set up. And you're like, all right,
That's so
there's a
cool.
relationship. Yeah, there's a trajectory. There's a small piece of the world that isn't as shallow as it was, that they found a depth that they could share.
Yes.
And part of that was what you set up.
Yes. And again, just what you were saying, man, you will never know truly what those depths are unless you explore. Now, that doesn't mean that every single time, right, that you go into a puddle, it's going to be this beautiful cavern and this fantastically deep. No, no. But if we if we never look, we will never find those, you know? And I know there's, some people don't have super high feelings of Sam Harris, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. I take the little pieces here and there of everybody's different stuff that I like. And one of the
Mhm.
things I really loved was the idea of, the idea that there are these peaks and valleys in terms of what life can be like. And some of these experiences that we have, they're not possible in some systems. We will never achieve this level of pleasure and satisfaction unless we do X, you know? And that's how I see the world so much is whenever we are standing there watching the city burn, right? Which happens. Sometimes because there are bad actors. Sometimes because there are people who are attempting purposefully exactly what you were saying. They want you to feel like you don't have a voice. They want you to feel
Mhm.
like you're not important, you know? They want to remind you every day that somebody else just went viral and it wasn't fucking you, you know? They want that. I want to stand there in that moment as the city is burning. And I want to turn to people next to me and I want to say, how can we stop this? How can we rebuild better? And how can we prevent this in the future? And not everybody can do all of that, right? We need some people to be putting out the fire. We need some people to be thinking about rebuilding. We need some people to be thinking about safety. That should be how we look at these situations all the time, because it has been known for quite a while, y'all. The Buddha said it many thousands of years ago that life, yes, life is suffering, okay? like we know there's going to be crap. That's going to happen. Tornadoes are just going to form. Floods are going to occur, not globally. But we're going to have these things. Cancer, death, grief, suffering, all of these things are going to occur, right? And what's worse is that even with all of that crap that's just going to happen for no reason other than the fact that, you know, another second on the clock ticked, there are people out there that want bad things. There are people out there that do want suffering in some capacities. But I actually don't think that's the majority of people. I don't think the majority of people wake up in the morning and say to themselves, I want to know exactly how many people I can hurt today, and I want it to be the most intense suffering they've ever felt. I think the majority of people, honestly, are just a little bit wrong about what's really beneficial for themselves and others, and are just a little bit misguided when it comes to the next action or the next behavior that could bring about that suffering or that pleasure, right? And honestly, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a better world, because if the world was really one where the majority of people woke up and actively wanted to cause suffering, oh, shit, man. That'd be so
It would not
depressing,
last very long.
right? It
Anyway.
wouldn't, that would just be such a
Yeah.
bad place, you know? And so what does that mean then? What does that mean, Elliott? If people are not attempting to do all these bad things and yet all of these bad things are still occurring, well, that means that there's an opportunity for us. That means there's a chance for us to make tomorrow just a little bit better in some way. And there's a bunch of different ways. You know, there's so many opportunities and places that we can make small improvements, right? Just even in your neighborhood, you know, just something just close by that honestly only you and two other people are ever going to know about. But you know what? Again, you'll never know how far that ripple travels in the water. You'll never know how deep that pond really is, right? Until you do that. And when you do that, it suddenly it changes everything about the world. It now all of a sudden opens up this other opportunity for people, right? I mean, kindness spreads, man. And something as simple as just showing somebody that you care, right, can make all the fucking difference. And we just have to have more of those opportunities. We just have to find more of those spaces, and we have to purposefully not avoid the difficult things. Move into those challenges. Move into those limitations, right? It's good to explore that stuff and find out just exactly how strong that wall is right there. Because I see it, man. But you know what? With the tiniest little push, suddenly it opens up this massive, massive space. And sometimes you push on that wall and it is rock fucking solid. And you know what? That's also really cool. That's also really cool because now you know where you're comfortable. You know where, hey, that I went all the way out there and I found exactly where my limit was and I put a flag up and I'm perfectly comfortable. I'm really happy right here, That's awesome. That's beautiful. And that allows each of us to then go and do all of those different little things in the different avenues. You want to go help the Trevor Project. You want to go help RFR. You want to go help Second Harvest. You want to do that. Awesome. Beautiful, because now we're all in spaces that we enjoy and that we love, and we're getting to grow and we're getting to help others. We're exploring new caves. We're sending those ripples out. That is a community. That is connected, that brings about real tangible change. And you know what? I'm just going to be honest. I don't think there's any other way to do it. I sure don't think
No,
magic's going to do it.
it is not. It is
Right?
not.
I mean,
Yep.
I get it. It's going to take some time. It's not going to be something that a year goes by and we get it done. And you know what? I'll be honest too. Like, we got an uphill battle. Like, sure, like I don't have 1 million subscribers. I've never gone viral. I don't have, $500 billion in a fucking trust somewhere or some, I don't have any of that stuff. But do you know why something goes viral? It's because a bunch of us pay attention. It's because a bunch of non-viral things, right? All of the people in the, well, I can't make a difference space, we make a difference, right? My voice is so small, it doesn't matter. It's because of your voice that it's viral. It's because you shared it. You commented on it. You told your buddy. That's doable then. That's something that we can use on our side. It's not that the algorithm for various social media platforms was specifically designed to like drive content that makes people angry, right? It's not that when they were first working on these things, they sat down and they said, yes, if we build Twitter exactly like this, everybody would be pissed off all the fucking time. No, that's not what happened, right? Again, we are apes, y'all. We're social apes. And so that's the type of stuff that makes us go, oh, I gotta send a message. I'm gonna tell him everything. Guys, we can use that. We can use that for ourselves, because what we see is that when 20 million people around the world in 150 different countries all repost the same fucking message, we literally see humans being saved from torture and execution. Guys, this is one of the most powerful fucking tools we've got. I mean, this is huge. Let's utilize it. Let's utilize it, and utilize it in a way that is purposefully moving into the problems and the disagreements and the issues. And let's be clear-eyed about that. Let's be focused on it. Let's not pretend it doesn't exist. Let's not push it to the side. No, let's address it head on in a cordial yet challenging way, in a way where we are welcoming, where we are attempting to build up instead of tear down. We can do that. We can do that. And we can completely flip the whole fucking script. We can completely flip it, man. I really, really think we have that opportunity. And I'm just excited because I've seen already so much progress in so many different ways. And again, there are too many amazing places to talk about and all the great work that they're doing. But let me just because I know some of these numbers pretty well. I want to say about 4 years ago, I remember watching a fundraiser for Recovering from Religion. And I think they made about $8,000 in one night. If you can believe it, it was fucking crazy. Absolutely awesome. And then a year went by and they did another one. And I think they broke 10, maybe 12,000, you know? Last time Recovering from Religion did a fundraiser, they almost broke 100K.
Yep.
Guys, that's not 50 years. That's not 100 years. We're talking 5 max. That's incredible. We can do that over and over and over and over again. We can build these spaces. We can actually create tangible, rooted, solid, long-lasting communities. We can do this. We can completely change the whole fucking world. But we got to start. We got to start. We got to do it right
Do the
now,
work.
man. You know, we got to do it.
So,
That's the whole thing, you know? So I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like, nah, you know what, man? I'm fucking tired. I'm not doing it. No worries, man. No worries. I totally understand. All good. For everybody else, get your ass up. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. You're going to struggle. You're going to put a lot into it. Motherfuckers aren't going to be appreciative. All that shit's going to happen. But you will turn around one day and you will be blown away by, again, how deep truly this is. How deep and far reaching what you've done actually is, you know? And again,